It just took 30 seconds. Even if they're fake, it doesn't matter. No, actually, that's how make sure you and I think they're going over.
Yeah. Do you have a lock? You just want a picture now, or Joe? I'll send you one. Okay. I'll send you one. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, real good.
Oh my God.
I might wear some sunglasses. They glare.
When you get older,
Or be bright.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm glad to have the energy of the U.S. Conference of Mayors joining us together. They're here to talk about the critical issues they're facing in their communities related to housing and homelessness. I'm very proud to be the ranking member of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs, where I have made ending veteran homelessness a priority. Now, this is not an issue that can be solved by Congress. Every city has a homeless response system that addresses those needs. For veteran homelessness, the reality and the magnitude of the problem is that nearly 200,000, yes, 200,000 veterans access VA homeless programs every year, and they are spread out all over the country in areas both urban and rural. The number is much higher than the point-in-time count conducted every January, and a stark reflection of the true need in our communities. I think everyone here that surrounds me agrees with me that we must help every homeless person, but there is a special pull to homeless veterans who gave so much to our country. During the pandemic, Congress granted the Department of Veterans Affairs several authorities they use to provide additional funding to community homeless providers and to help veterans access the basic items they need to become stably housed, like food, clothing, and transportation. These authorities were successful, reducing veteran homelessness by 11% during one of the most difficult times in our country's recent history. We know what works, and unconscionably, congressional Republicans have failed to pass bipartisan legislation that would allow these authorities to continue. In 12 days, it will have been a year since providers had adequate funding to support veterans. Congress must act to increase this funding to providers as they help get veterans off the street and into stable housing. Now, this would be a good start, but does not alone solve veteran homelessness. Another issue that I'm working on with Mayor Bass, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and several of my colleagues is one affecting disabled homeless veterans that makes it difficult for them to access housing that was built specifically to meet their unique needs. How much of a fix is this that we're in that disabled veterans can't get into housing that was built for them? Americans rightly do not understand this. Right now, veterans who receive total or near disability compensation are unable to access affordable housing in many parts of our country because their VA benefits put them over the eligibility limits. I'm working with my colleagues to update how federal, state, local, and private funders calculate income to make sure that veterans with service-connected disabilities are not being deemed ineligible for permanent supportive housing. And that's where the mayors come in. We will need the help of all these mayors, and then some, mayors across the country, to make sure that their cities and states work with us to identify and implement the fix to this problem. We've had a great conversation this morning about this specific issue, and I'm feeling confident that by working together, we can get something done. We also discussed the barriers created for the development of permanent housing for veterans by the cap on how many vouchers a public housing authority can project base. I look forward to working with VA and HUD to address this issue so that we can incentivize the construction of housing for veterans nationwide. I truly believe veteran homelessness is solvable, and that by helping communities remove barriers to housing, we will succeed in our goal to ensure that every veteran in our nation is housed. Thank you again to everyone for joining us today, and I'm grateful to have partners across the country who agree that we must approach ending veteran homelessness with the urgency, focus, and action that it deserves. Now I want to bring to the podium a colleague who has made ending veteran homelessness his top issue since he's gotten to Congress. He's been a tremendous partner. My colleague from the state of California, Mike Levin. Mike.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'm Congressman Mike Levin, and I'm proud to represent California's 49th Congressional District, which includes North County, San Diego, South Orange County, and Greenport, Base Camp Pendleton, right in the center of our district, the major Greenport base on the West Coast. My district's also home to one of the largest veteran populations in the United States, which drives me to work every day to serve our nation's heroes. I want to thank two dear friends. First is the great ranking member of the House Veterans Affairs Committee, Mark Takano. Really been an amazing year for veterans. And my time here in Congress as chairman, ranking member, gotten so much accomplished. And I think we're going to get some more accomplished in the years ahead. And then my friend Karen Bass, who's just doing a fantastic job as mayor for the city of Los Angeles. LA is very special to me. All four of my grandparents are Angelinos. My parents are Angelinos. I went to high school in LA. And while we miss Karen here in the halls of Congress, she is doing a fantastic job for the city of Los Angeles.
Yes.
So my work ending veteran homelessness begins with a simple belief. No veteran, after serving our country, should be left out on the streets to fend for themselves. Full stop. It should never happen. As a nation, we have a commitment to take care of those who are willing to sacrifice everything for our country. No veteran should be homeless, jobless, or without health care. In San Diego, there are over 1,000 veterans experiencing homelessness right now. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable to have that many veterans with no place to live. It says a lot about our country and the need for affordable housing and bipartisan, pragmatic solutions to help homeless veterans. It's important to remember, just as there is no one cause of veteran homelessness, there is no one solution. But while I share the frustration that there's no silver bullet to fix this problem, we also have a great opportunity to meet our veterans where they are and offer solutions for their specific needs. As a ranking member of the House Veterans Affairs Subcommittee on Economic Opportunity, I'm proud to champion a number of efforts that address challenges that occur when veterans transition from military to civilian life, from searching for a job, finding a home. For a year and a half now, I've been working to address the fact that homeless veterans with high service-connected disability ratings are being deemed ineligible for permanent supportive housing units because their disability compensation puts them over income limits tied to the housing project. It shouldn't be this way. Over a quarter, think of this statistic, over a quarter of HUD vouchers are not being used. At the same time you have people on the street, a quarter of those vouchers are going unused. Largely because of a limited housing supply. And this issue is a big contributor to that problem. So here's the deal. We've got to exhaust every resource available to connect veterans with available housing. And we must redouble our efforts to build more affordable housing and make it easier to access it. One veteran without a home is one too many. I'm committed to doing everything I can to ensure our nation's veterans are housed, and I look forward to working together with everybody here, hopefully future chairman, again, Takano, and all the great mayors behind us to work out the Thank you so much.
All right, thank you everyone so much for being here, and thank you so much for all of your work. We really appreciate it. I'm Rita Mayor of UHCB. I'm also the president of the United States Conference of Mayors. A year ago, we went to work and we really identified what this conference means, what I believe is the number one crisis in America, and that is homelessness, addiction, and mental health issues. I can't say it enough, but it is something where we're having to have our loved ones arrested just to seek mental health treatment and addiction. So for all these issues that are happening in our country, this truly is the number one crisis. A year ago, we put Mayor Mash, she's done an amazing job as the committee chair for homelessness, and she has not stopped. We have just been on the Hill constantly, lobbying, doing everything we possibly can, meeting with congressional leaders. She has been a true champion on this issue. I just want to recognize we have 50 mayors here. Really quickly, I know it's super hot and you're irritated, but I really need, it's important that your cities know that you're here. I'm going to start with you, Mayor Holt. Just go around.
David Holt, Mayor of Oklahoma City.
Rick Blanchard, Mayor of Oklahoma. Joe Gannon, Mayor of Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Takano, Mayor of Montana, California. Lisa Fanning, Mayor of Beaverton, Oregon. Sean Patterson Howard, Mayor of Mount Vernon, New York.
Juan Gonzalez, Mayor of San Leandro, California.
Bonnie Keeper, Mayor of Bend, Oregon.
Brett Smiley, Mayor of Providence, Rhode Island.
Heidi Wu, Mayor of Greater Oregon.
Matt Burt, Alcalde de Allentown, Pennsylvania. Mayor of the greatest city God ever created, Antioch.
Chase Cognetti, Mayor of Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Brian Waller, Piscataway Township, New Jersey.
Andre Dickens, Mayor of Atlanta, Georgia.
Tito Brown, Mayor of Youngstown, Ohio.
Barry McCarthy, Mayor of Schenectady, New York.
John Giles, Mayor of Mesa, Arizona.
Shar Gilbert, Mayor of Apex, North Carolina.
I am Phil Brock, Mayor of Santa Monica, California.
Lily May, Mayor of Fremont, California.
Helen Tran, Mayor of San Bernardino, California.
Jacob Fry, Mayor of Minneapolis.
Esther Manheimer, Mayor of Asheville.
Jack Bradley, Mayor of Lorain, Ohio.
Corey Woods, Mayor of Tempe, Arizona.
Jerry Dyer, Mayor of Fresno, California.
Anna Stout, Mayor of Grand Junction, Colorado.
Tom Cochran, CEO and Executive Director of the one and only United States Conference.
Yeah, just to wrap this up, I want to say thank you to the White House. They were gracious enough yesterday to host us, and they're asking that mayors are at the table on a comprehensive plan on housing. So mayors will not stop. Like I said, we are in our cities. We are feeling the crisis. Right at home with our neighbors, our loved ones, our family, our friends. We deal with this crisis every single day. And again, I want to stress that we have to have our loved ones arrested to get them mental health help or access to care. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to our great leader, Mayor Karen Bass, from the wonderful city.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. It is definitely an honor, pleasure, and a thrill to really be here with so many mayors representing such a large part of the United States. I believe we represent over about 14 million Americans. And to have the leadership of Mark Takano and Mike Levin, and I see Representative Stephen Horsford there. Thank you very much for your support and leadership on this issue. All of us agree. Americans that fought on behalf of our country, the men and women who have defended us, should never, ever, ever sleep one night outside. And the idea that in many cities around our country, we actually have vacant units and unused vouchers for veterans because of technicality of including their income. One of the things that all of us as mayors are experiencing, we are getting people off the street and saving lives every single day. There are solutions to this situation, but what we find is a lot of outdated laws, regulations, rules contribute to homelessness. This is focusing on veterans. There's other rules, such as individuals who are in the foster care system, when they turn 18 or 21, we literally put them on the streets. So while we're fighting day in and day out to get people off the streets, we have to bring the fight here to Washington, D.C., so that we can look at rules and regulations that need to be tossed aside, given the magnitude of the problem that we have today. You think when we come to Washington, it's just to ask for money? Of course, we always want money, correct? But money is not everything. We also need changes in rules and regulations, getting rid of the red tape so that we can get people off the streets. This is America in the 21st century, the richest country in the history of the world. No one should be unhoused. So thank you very much for your support. I now would like to introduce Mayor Polk.
Well, it's Mayor Giles of Mesa would disagree, but it's hot, so I'm going to try to be brief. I just want to thank Mayor Sheedy for her leadership of our organization and for prioritizing the issue of mental health. And I want to thank Mayor Bass for her incredible leadership. Obviously, she had a big team, the conference, her own staff, but she was the force of nature that brought these 50 mayors here to Washington, D.C., and we're so grateful for her leadership on this issue, and this is really just the start. This is certainly not the culmination of those efforts. I just want to emphasize 2 points. One is, and I know we'll probably have the opportunity to circulate to you the specific talking points, but we're here on really 4 points, and they're very specific. They're very attainable, at least from our perspective. I know everything is hard in this town, but we think that they're not pie in the sky at all. They are obviously beneficial for veterans, but they are beneficial for all people experiencing homelessness in our communities, and it is a way for us to partner with the federal government to solve this problem. Obviously, a lot of the obligation falls on our shoulders, and we don't shirk away from that, but we think that there are at least 4 specific ways that the federal government can support our efforts. The second thing I want to say that I think is really important, because it really hasn't been brought up yet, we all individually, either formally or informally, often think of ourselves as nonpartisan because we, as mayors, really want to represent and serve all the people of our communities. However, we are generally, technically, at least privately registered, either Republican, Democrat, or Independent, and it's always funny when we get off the plane in this town, nobody lets us forget it. We are always identified by our parties when we come to Washington, D.C. And I think we maybe bristle a little bit at that, but I kind of like it in a sense because we are so bipartisan as an organization that the opportunity to show that there is a class of political leaders in this country who still does things on a bipartisan basis is pretty important, and I think a really important model. So you may not know this, but half of the big city top 50 Republican mayors in America are standing behind me right now. There are a lot of Republicans, Independents, and Democrats standing literally shoulder to shoulder right now in front of you, advocating for these issues. And by the way, it's not just on the issues of homelessness or veterans. We do that all the time at the United States Conference of Mayors. We are kind of the last bastion of bipartisan governance in this country, and we're proud of that and we're protective of it. And so I think I am a registered Republican, and so my role is perhaps to remind you that there's a lot of people from both parties who care about these issues, especially at the municipal level, and we will continue to work in a bipartisan fashion because we know nothing's going to get done up here unless it's bipartisan. And we think that these are issues of common purpose that we can all agree on. So thank you all for coming, and now it is my honor. And by the way, I suffer from an undiagnosed phobia of mispronouncing the mayor of Toledo's name. But I'm going to go for it. Please welcome Mayor Kapsakavich.
Good job.
I deliberately did not introduce myself when we went around. One, because I knew I was on the speakers program. And 2, I wanted to see if Mayor Holt could say my name. And he pulled it off. I want to thank the members of Congress who are with us today. In particular, Congressman Levin, I feel like I should point out I was born in San Diego on the Balboa Naval. But like so many families annoyed by the perpetual, continual 80-degree days, we moved to Toledo because my parents apparently prefer snow and sleet. It's an honor to be with everyone here today, and we want to repeat our thanks for Mayor Bass, former Congressman Bass, for organizing this, and of course Congressman Takano for hosting us. I should also point out that I am, while Mayor Bass is the chair of our special committee on homelessness, the Conference of Mayors is organized into 11 permanent standing committees, and I chair the U.S. Conference of Mayors Community Development and Housing Committee, and Mayor Woods of Tempe is my co-chair. We've broken into little small groups. There are 50 of us here. I think we organize ourselves into 5 little sub-regions. And we stand out, meeting with congressmen and senators. Just my group, our sort of Midwestern, Middle America group, in the process of meeting with 6 U.S. senators and 5 congressmen. And so I can only assume that the other groups have a similar agenda. You know, we're going to be able to have face-to-face conversations with a fair percentage of our decision makers in the city, and the truth is we need all of their help. Because there is not a mayor in America who's not dealing with this problem, the problem of homelessness today. Mayor Sheeby mentioned, but at our January meeting, as we do every year, the mayors were surveyed. The conference is, I believe, has 1,300 member cities in it, Tom, roughly 1,400. And so every year we do a survey of what the most important issues are facing our community. And over, this is my 7th year as mayor. Over time, the issues have changed a little bit here and there. But this year, it was overwhelming. We spoke with one voice. The number one problem, according to the mayors at our January meeting, was the problem of homelessness. And I do think a point that hasn't been made today needs to be made now, and that is this. While there is often a lot of media focus on the impact of this issue on the coasts, California, the East Coast, it almost creates the false sense that that's the only part of America where this is a problem. It is not true. I'm from Ohio. Our next speaker is from Idaho.
Oregon.
Pardon me? Or even Oregon.
We're not on the coast anymore.
I'm always suspicious of states that start with vowels, you know. But no, we have the 50 mayors who are here are from all over the United States of America. And the problem might look a little differently in Allentown, Pennsylvania, or Scranton, Pennsylvania, or Youngstown, Ohio, than it does in Los Angeles. But it is every bit the problem. And it is an issue that needs consensus, and I think it can have bipartisan consensus. It was maybe the best mayor in our country's history, Fiorello LaGuardia, who famously said that potholes aren't partisan. There's no Republican way to plow snow. There's no Democratic Party way to collect trash. Mayors are hired to solve problems. 3 kinds of people in the world: Republicans, Democrats, and mayors. We don't have time to be partisan. We don't have time to engage in the bickering that happens in the city. We just see problems and solve them. And this is the number one problem that we face. Affordable housing has a real definition. If you find yourself, you need affordable housing. If you find yourself paying at least 30% of your income on housing. In the city of Toledo, that is almost a majority of all of our citizens in our city of 280,000 people, the 4th largest city in the state of Ohio. In other words, there's an economic development aspect to this, along with the moral, social imperative that exists. If you are spending 50% of every dollar you earn on your housing, that means you're not spending money on goods and services and widgets and tickets and other things that support the local economy. Solving this problem is important for so many reasons, not the least of which is its role in helping the overall economy of the community. I would hope that everyone on all sides of the partisan divide can get behind that. Toledo, we've taken advantage of the help we've received from Washington. American Rescue Plan dollars took millions of them to build 600 new units of affordable housing. We took $2 million of our money to fold into mental health programs that we think can be helpful. And we certainly want to thank President Biden for raising this challenge in his State of the Union and the aggressive new proposals he outlined in his fiscal year 2025 budget. But our message is clear. Everyone benefits when housing is affordable, not just those for whom the house is provided. The entire community benefits. That's what we've seen in our community. That's what these mayors see in their communities. And I hope that's the message that Congress takes away from us. And with that, I would like to introduce from the great state of Oregon, Mayor Davis.
I know Oregon is hard to find on the map, but we are between California and Washington. I am Lacey Beatty, a very lucky mayor of Beaverton. I am also a proud U.S. Army combat veteran and a wife to an active duty military officer. This issue around veteran homelessness is something our country needs to vote on. last month was the 49th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. And all of our Vietnam veterans in the audience and listening, welcome home. It took us 49 years to get it right with Vietnam veterans. And we are now at the place where we understand the sacrifice they made on behalf of our country. And don't get it wrong, serving our veterans is a national security threat. If we do not take care of our veterans in this all-volunteer force, who is going to volunteer to serve? We are 20 years as post-9/11 veterans. We fought hard to get the PACT Act across the line to make sure those of us that were exposed to toxic chemicals could get the treatment that we earned. It's now presumptive care if you're in the Middle East and you've developed cancer. Our Senate and Congress have done a remarkable job protecting veteran health care. But through that effort, it allows a quite technical issue around the housing. We need the veteran disability income to not count towards housing services. So let's not take another 49 years to recognize the service and sacrifice of our military families, and let's compel Senate to act to fix this technical fix. If you served one day in our country, you deserve the respect and housing. No veteran should be homeless in America. Thank you.
Well, thanks. Well, thank you. And you're welcome. The PACT Act was a House bill, and the largest. I'm so proud of my colleagues for the PACT Act was one of the largest, actually the largest expansion of veterans benefits in a couple of generations. So I'm very proud of that. So let's questions for the mayors or members. How about? Yes, I saw you.
Yes. Hi there. Good afternoon, and thank you for everyone who's contributed to this important cause. How do you know when you got it right? What are the litmus tests that you're looking for in the short term as far as providing housing in general across the country? Is there a specific number that we're looking for? How do we know?
I would define it as functional zero. That we, not absolute zero, but we know that so what I mean by functional zero is that any veteran or homeless person that is homeless, it's for a very short time, and it's a blip, right? We're always going to find people that are homeless, but we want the numbers to go down, and there is a definition called functional zero. I'm happy to say that my own county of Riverside County was functional zero for veteran homelessness, and it's definitely achievable. San Bernardino County has done similar. That's my good friend Aquanetta Warren here, and Helen Strand, San Bernardino, my homies from Vietnam. So, any other mayor like
the changes you're proposing? Could any of this be done administratively, either at HUD or at the VA, or does it require legislation?
Good question. We have been laboring under that very question for several months. We think that there does need to be a legislative solution. And I won't go into the details quite yet because I got to work it out with the members. But even with that legislative solution, it's still incomplete. Because what we're dealing with is the AMI, or average, the area median income level, and how the eligibility is defined by all the project participants. Those participants are local governments, housing authorities, private investors, and even the smallest participant can define eligibility for the entire project. So Congress and the administration can do its part by dealing with a technical fix in law, but we still need to get the mayors, local officials, and developers to be a part of the solution as well. All that has not been fully mapped out because we have the issue of prospective projects, existing projects, and projects in motion in terms of projects that have eligibility attachment to it. It's a complex issue, but we do think we have a more clear pathway of what needs to happen. So the answer is legislative, and there's an asterisk. We still need the help of all.
Is there a priority for eligibility? Eligibility, what you were talking about, so that paint a ceiling with disabled.
So the eligibility, so we need to make sure that veterans that are receiving, disability checks for 100% disability or close to it, that how we're going to achieve that is to try and work those eligibility requirements that are set to the projects. But we got to do it in such a way that, there can be some reasonable amount of rent expected too. It can't be completely, a free sort of thing. But, it's something along the lines of, the 30%, not exceeding 30% of the amount of income. But we have to also calculate so it's not a straightforward answer for every community. But we know that we have to change some regulations, and we also need to get the cooperation of other partners out there. Yes.
I think Mayor Holt, referenced 4 talking points or 4 asks, but I don't think he told us what they were.
Sure.
Could we? I'm just wondering if you could just share what the key points were that you all were asking for.
Sure. Well, first of all, we do not want veterans' benefits to be included as income, so that all veterans should be able to have access to housing. The other one is 2 areas of vouchers. There are 2 types of vouchers. Vouchers that are given to individuals. All of us have individuals in our cities with vouchers. The landlord's not willing to receive. So we want vouchers issued tied to the property and not to the individual. This will help be a catalyst for developers who will develop housing if they have the project-based vouchers. And then the other one is we need flexibility in the community development block grant. Yes. And we need flexibility in that so that we can get more people housed. Again, the main point is to address homelessness, we have to have a comprehensive strategy. We have to prevent people from falling into homelessness, but we need all of the bureaucratic red tape to get out of the way. And these are examples of bureaucratic red tape that hold us back from actually being able to get people housed. But we can also give you that in writing as well.
Thank you.
Go ahead, yes. Your request reflects some of the priorities that you laid out today?
Mr. President, but yes, it does. It does.
Vouchers, increasing the numbers of vouchers and project-based vouchers.
Yes, and the way the vouchers, with Mayor Bass, to elaborate on what he's saying, when I got into office, I helped facilitate a veterans housing project in my district. They wanted to bundle together HUD-VASH vouchers attached to a project. That's a guaranteed stream of income for the developer. They can go to the financiers and say, look, we know that X number of units are guaranteed to be filled. That facilitates a faster process. What the mayors are asking for is that the cap on these vouchers, for project-based vouchers, is raised. Currently there's a cap on that. That's another fix that we need to put into the law. Yes.
Hi, I have a question for Mayor Bass. Actually, you offered Congresswoman Barbara Lee to be the new HUD secretary. I was wondering if you could expand on that.
Well, I would be happy to expand on that one by one. But I'm here today as a member of the Unionist Conference of Mayors, and that is not anybody else's position. So if you would like, I'd be happy to follow up.
Great. Yes.
Banking's part of the whole program of the banking society being implemented as maybe helping out the renters and the builders getting some kind of tax break or some kind of support?
Well, the people who participate in building a project currently, they all have a say in establishing the eligibility of the income eligibility. So they are part of the solution in the sense that even after Congress we fix this issue of veterans' benefits, the income being too high, that's one step in the process, but we also have to go back to all of these participants, all the investors in the project, to get them to take a look back on the eligibility requirements they already set into this project.
I think we're all right.
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Sorry, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.